All right, hi everyone. We'll let a few of you still trickle in, but we want to get started showing you all we have in store today for Flowcase. So welcome to our second annual Flowcase. Today you're going to hear from 5 of our customers on how they're using Okta workflows to solve some of their toughest innovation challenges and pressures. Ultimately, you'll see how they've been able to save time and resources, improve security, and really scale their business. As always, everything shared here is forward-looking and could change, so we ask that you keep that in mind throughout the presentations, and this is not commitments to deliver. What you can expect today is we're going to get started with a quick, very quick overview on what exactly is workflows. And then we'll quickly go into our 5 customer stories and awards. So you'll hear today from Wealthsimple, Ongi, Pacific Dental, Schuberg Phyllis, and NTT Data. So you can see we have a broad range of customers across industries. We'll then go into what's next and upcoming on our roadmap. For those online, you can ask questions in the chat. And for those of you in person, we ask that you write down your questions, reserve them to the end, and we have experts throughout the room that will stand up at the end, and we have some time for you to go up and ask them individually. So how many people know what workflows is? Raise hands. Fabulous. How many people use it day to day? Fabulous. Okay. For the few of you who didn't, Workflows is Okta's no-code integration platform that allows our customers to automate and orchestrate actions to really extend Okta and build security use cases such as lifecycle management, governance, or really to solve other IT operational challenges with automation. So with that, I'd like to welcome our first presenter to the stage. We're welcoming Christopher from Wealthsimple. We're excited to, yes, please. Yes. We're excited to give him the award of our Full Circle Award. As you'll see today, he's using workflows for a range of use cases across governance, security, lifecycle management, and you'll learn from him. They have some incredible success stories, and as you go, maybe you can start thinking ways you can embed some of Christopher's magic into your own tech stack and organizations. So with that, Christopher.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Christopher Ejbich. I'm a manager of IT. My pronouns are he and him, and I have the pleasure of speaking with you about automating access using Okta Identity Governance and workflows. So let's jump in with a little rundown of my company and a quick overview of things. We're a fintech based out of Toronto, Canada. We serve over 3 million Canadians and have over 20 billion in assets under management. We're a competitor to what we call the Big 5 banks, and we specialize in the areas of save, trade, invest, tax, and crypto. So I'd love to dig into the challenge that we've been breaking down, and we're going to look at it in 2 ways here today. First, we're going to talk through the scenario, and then we're going to look at an example of a previous user journey, somebody requesting access to a SaaS application. So what is this challenge? We are, as I like to call, a small but lean and mean IT team of about 5 people serving 1,100 employees, federating over 200 applications. The old method was manually provisioning access upon request, which was not scalable. It became inefficient and costly, and it started to impact our IT team and our company productivity. We used to use a couple other previous solutions to try to solve for these provisioning problems, but we encountered a couple issues. First and foremost, the timeliness in which they would run would not always be the best. A lot of them had bespoke costs for API access, which was ramping up quite quickly as our employee base was ramping up. And then lastly, there were some potential security risks. As we all know, most applications that help with provisioning or offboarding require super admin, and opening up your doors to yet another application is always a risk. So Together, this had a pretty big domino effect on our productivity. So as I mentioned, let's look at a previous user journey. This starts on Monday at 9 a.m. and goes all the way till Friday at 11:30 a.m. And you can see the toil that it took to get that ticket approved. We had a number of barriers we needed to jump through, a number of manual requests that needed to be approved. It could take nearly 5 days to gain access to a simple tool. As I mentioned, this slows down the team, the employee, and the company. So, how did we solve this? Well, we're gonna break down that solution for you in 5 ways today. First, why we picked Okta. Secondly, the solution we built. We're gonna look at the workflow and the process. We're gonna analyze our end user experience, and then we're gonna look at us admins and how this affects us. So, why Okta? Well, the first reason, it's already our existing IDP. I'm assuming everyone in this room uses Okta, and to naturally use a tool that you already have is a perfect extension of its already existing capabilities. As we all know, Okta is a very strong security-focused company, and being a fintech who cares about our client security, again, that seemed to pair very well with our needs. They also have a very well-documented and dynamic platform. If you've ever set up an integration or an application, you know the documentation behind that tends to be robust. Workflows was exactly the same. They have a robust API library, which I mentioned before, was at no additional cost and could integrate with pretty much any custom workflow we needed. It offered us the scalability we needed. So, let's look at the solution and what we came up with. So, we figured out a way to automatically configure user access within our organization, and we're gonna break that down with a little chart on the right-hand side here. So you're gonna see, we're gonna start in the top left corner with the pink bubble, which is a group ID, a custom profile attribute we're using to kick off our workflow. When you're granting a user access to an application, that's usually through a group, and we're looking for that group ID. If that group ID exists, we map it to a user. That user is the resource owner, the person who's responsible for that group. And as a result, it triggers the creation of a few new groups. It creates the resource owner group that only that application owner is placed into, and it creates a resource request approvers group. That could be any group of admins who need or could grant access to that application. Once those groups are created, we then link it with IGA, Identity Governance, for automatic provisioning of applications. So you'll see in the blue bubble near the bottom right, an access request comes in. You can set up a couple conditions there, a first approval like their manager, a second approval like that resource request approver, or you could just automatically grant that if you desire. Once those approvals are passed, that access request reads those approvals and automatically grants that user access to that group, AKA that vault, that application, that RBAC control. So that might seem complicated, but let's break it down with the workflow itself and get a little rundown of how this works. So we're gonna look at this video together and we're gonna just go through it. So you'll notice that it's triggered off of the group ID. We call that OAR bootstrap action, and the workflow is checking to see if the group ID exists. If the group ID exists, we're then gonna create the resource owner group and name that group based on the group ID. We then create the resource approvers group, again, based on the group ID and name. We then add the application owner to that resource approver group and resource owner group, and then we provide them with group admin capabilities so that they can add people into that group as needed. We then use group admin and restrict that ability to specifically those two groups so nobody else can access or provide that access, and then we link it to IGA. Through that, as we saw, this allows users to cut that access. We then reset that OAR bootstrap token. This allows us to run that workflow again. Heaven forbid the manager departs or changes. And then finally, we go and we create a Jira ticket. This allows us to update our internal configuration if you're running something like a Terraform so that you know what you need to update on the back end. So that's great from the back end and the workflows perspective. But what about our users? Well, we're gonna look at a workflow video again that shows how simple this is for them. So, you're gonna see here that I'm using an instance of Slack, a communication tool, to facilitate this request. I'm starting a / command requesting access, and in this case, I'm requesting Okta admin as my role. This is an application that is already scoped to me and can be instantly approved. So it's gonna ask me a couple questions. It's gonna ask me my term length, if I need short-term or long-term access. It's gonna ask me the admin role I'd like, group admin, org admin, membership admin, whatever we'd like. And then it's gonna ask me for a justification for that reason. Maybe it's a security incident. Maybe it's a sensitive ticket that needs to be answered. I'm answering these questions, and based on the approval chain on the back end, it's done. My access has already been granted. That was pretty simple. But let's look at our admin experience here. So, what does it look like for us? Well, the great news is that Okta is working on the back end to help automate and delegate the responsibility for these tasks. So you're gonna see on this chart here that this was a quick approval. My questions were automatically logged. Again, I can link that to a service like Splunk. It provides transparency and accountability and monitoring capabilities. And you'll also see that this facilitated providing me access for that short-term period, only 4 hours. So nobody needs to go in and revoke me afterwards. I have the access to do what I need to do for a short period of time, keeping us both safe and secure. So, what are the results here? We're gonna break down those results into 2 areas. First, the customer experience and the impact on our customers and clients. And secondly, the return on investment for our company. So from the customer side, this has been super helpful as it's reduced our average wait time for a request from 48 hours to 1 hour, a huge time savings. IGA has been instrumental at providing us the tools we need to achieve SOC certification and governance on the back end. And it's reduced our error potential because this is automated. There's no more manual provisioning, no more mistakes. And lastly, because we have this standard process in place, if we need to onboard a new application, it's sped up that time by 20% because we now have a process in place to initiate that. This has been a fantastic win for not only us internally, but our customers, because when they need help, we can provide that help more quickly. Lastly, let's look at that return on investment and how it impacted our company. So the great thing is the return on investment goes beyond just the numbers. Well, we can look at things like cost savings over 150,000 US dollars. The real impact has been on our team. With a drastic decrease in IT tickets, our morale and productivity has increased, and it's allowed us to reallocate some of our time to focus on more high-value projects. This has been an immediate improvement, helping us yet again achieve our security, improve our company, and I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Now up next, I'd like